Testing. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Telex walkthrough and AMA. Super excited to speak with everyone, answer your questions, go through V3, the whole platform, and how the whole system works. So yeah, really excited to be here. Thanks for joining, and hopefully I can get to all your questions. Yeah, so let's start it up. All right, so the purpose of the call is just to walk through V3, how it works, and more specifically, how TELx works. TELx is live, and you can begin participating now. So yeah, let's start it up. Second, let me confirm this is all working. Awesome, looks like we're good. All right, so here's the little schedule today for the video. We're going to start off just by going through Telcoin's accomplishments in 2021. We've come a long way, and we're really excited about where we've come and how far we've been able to take the Telcoin platform over the past 6-7 months. We're going to go through the Telcoin mission statement. That's probably the most important thing about everything we're building. It really encompasses how we view our sort of competitive advantage and our mission in terms of improving in the lives of billions and changing the world for the better. So that's sort of the cornerstone of everything we do is our mission. And then from that mission statement, we can derive the sort of design objectives that led us to building V3 of the Telcoin platform. It led us to launching how TELx works, how the system's designed, how you can participate. And then we'll go through those options in terms of, our goal is to bring, fast and affordable financial products to everyone, the mobile phone. Well, how do we do that? And why did we choose this sort of design of TELx to accomplish those goals? And then we'll go through the site on TELx and really dive in to the docs and I'll work to answer any questions that you have there. Then we'll go through the initial TELx markets, the incentives for those markets, and then afterwards we'll do an AMA. So yeah, thanks for joining again, and really excited to be here and building with you all. So what's our mission? Our mission is to bring fast and affordable, user-owned, decentralized financial products to every mobile phone user in the world. What have we accomplished this year? Well, last year at, let's say, the sort of bottom of that crazy bear market that we saw from 2018 to 2020, at the beginning of COVID, we effectively were down to about 4 employees at Telcoin. And over the past 16 months, we've rebuilt the team from those 4 employees to over 30 employees across 7 countries, and we're growing rapidly. And we're extremely excited and proud of where we've come, and just very thankful for all of the innovators that have joined our team over the past 16 months, and I just can't wait for the next 16 months and to see where we can take this thing. We launched V2, which has outbound fiat remittances from Canada to 24 mobile money platforms in 16 countries. You can see that list on our Twitter when we did the V2.3 announcement. These markets are really across the entire developing world, and we're going to continue to expand to every market that we can compliantly operate in. Using partnerships with mobile money service providers that effectively have become the sort of way that people in these countries get banked. We LB 649 passed. Telcoin, led by Paul and Mark Quandal, basically passed the first piece of legislation for the world's first consumer-focused crypto banking charter. This is something that we're incredibly proud of, and it's something that's very much so unprecedented for a token project to help build and push through a piece of legislation that's really related to crypto and financial services in a way that we really haven't seen yet. So incredibly proud of that. We raised, as you all might have seen recently, $10 million in equity financing. We launched the world's first user-owned decentralized financial platform, and I'll go through what that means and why it's important later in this when we go through the Telex docs. We launched 2 user-owned decentralized financial products powered exclusively by active Telcoin users, or TELx. We launched 2 new complementary platform layers with 2 websites encompassing over 25 pages of holistic documentation about how the system works and how you can participate. Apparently people are saying the mic is too low, so let me figure this out. All right, and then the focus of why we're here today, we decentralized the liquidity engine of our financial platform, which is an incredibly exciting thing when you look at the context of generally across decentralized finance, across traditional finance. This is really unprecedented, and so we're incredibly excited to sort of unveil that and start things off over the next 24 hours with incentives flowing. We launched the world's first blockchain network that's powered exclusively by mobile network operators, Rivendell, which I'll go over a bit, but that deserves its own walkthrough and AMA, and over the coming months we'll continue to launch new phases as we continue to bootstrap more mobile network operators as validators. And so today's real focus is TELx. We launched liquidity mining last year, which was an incredibly successful program bootstrapping 2 decentralized financial markets that powered hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of trading volume in a permissionless way, powered by active Telcoiners, capturing fees that flew through that. And so now, we've really formalized that, and we're incredibly excited about the next phase of liquidity mining on Telcoin. We began formalized TEL issuance. Well, effectively, we begin formalized TEL issuance tomorrow. And remember, guys, that's just the first half of the year. We've expanded far beyond what our initial roadmap had slated, and we're going to continue building far beyond that roadmap. We're in an exciting number of verticals, and building products that you simply couldn't have done a few years ago, and now we're sort of at the cusp of innovation. And so, rather than these sort of incremental large launches, we're at the phase where this is becoming a sort of self-sustained decentralized platform, and our goal is to build products, build on-ramps, bootstrap decentralized networks and markets, And so we're just going to continue innovating and building new products, and building new on ramps, and really focus on that. We're sort of past the formative stage of where the Telcoin platform is, and we're just going to keep building. And we don't think that the sort of large incremental launch, with external pressure, is a really great conducive environment to building the types of complex systems, and within the context of the regulatory requirements that we're very keen on following. And so that roadmap that we had last year, while it might have been a helpful guide about what we're doing, we've expanded far beyond that. And so you shouldn't look to that roadmap anymore as a part of our development roadmap or our schedule. Moving forward, we're just going to keep shipping relentlessly, phasing in new products, new markets, new incentives mechanisms across the entire Telcoin platform stack. And so you'll really be able to participate in real time and contributing to that roadmap, and how things get integrated into the mobile application. So as I said, we decentralized the liquidity engine of the system. And so to put a sort of concrete roadmap around how a global coordinated unit of decentralized actors participate is kind of a crazy concept. And you actually see similar things with the way that ETH2 is doing their roadmap. They went from, we're going to launch immediately at this exact time, to let's phase things in over time. And our team really feels like that's a much better environment to build in. And now that we've decentralized everything, you can also contribute in very meaningful ways that you can see how well the system is working, and when things will get integrated based off of a structured sort of protocol or rules-based system for how things get launched and how things get integrated. So our mission statement. So our mission is to bring fast and affordable, user-owned, decentralized financial products to every mobile phone user in the world. So what can you take from that? Essentially, what can you take from this mission statement? And you can pull out a number of design objectives, which are the design objectives that we use to build everything within the context of the Telcoin platform. So those design objectives are fast. We want instant settlement from bank account to receiving bank account, or from trade execution to settlement. We want instant, and that's really a huge part of why we moved to Polygon. And we also want affordable. Another reason why we moved to Polygon. Polygon transactions are effectively instant and can cost a fraction of a penny. And we're still very much so aligned with Ethereum in every way, and we believe Polygon is as well. Rivendell will continue to grow and blossom over time, which will also help us fulfill those design objectives. User ownership, or user-owned products, not to be sort of confused with an equity raise within the context of the Telcoin PTE Limited company in Singapore. What I mean by user ownership is effectively the users capture fees that they typically exclusively play to financial institutions. The users own the infrastructure that is a part of the Telcoin platform. You can think about Telcoiners owning Quick on QuickSwap and governing that system. And there are a variety of other ways that user ownership can be accomplished on this platform. And TELx is really at the core of that. It's the first building block to user ownership, and is most certainly not the last. We're going to continue to innovate in this field because we think that user ownership at its core is what ends up disrupting and changing the world for the better, and empowering billions of people in their everyday lives. User ownership can also be attributed to how the Telcoin wallet functions, in terms of if you go to Coinbase and you send your assets to Coinbase, they custody them for you, they hold them. I don't know if you've ever heard the term not your keys, not your coins. At Telcoin, you're effectively always self-custodying your own assets. You never give up control to anyone else or any external party. And so user ownership can really be applied to basically every single aspect of the platform, and we'll continue to innovate in that field. And then decentralized, the system sort of has to be decentralized across the board. Now we have 3 separate networks across the platform with unique market participants, with unique roles and responsibilities and incentives. And at scale, the goal is for it to self-sustain over time, and then globally scalable. We want to launch this to every mobile phone user in the world. And so the design of TELx and the design of the Telcoin platform and the context of how users will be able to participate on the application, to globally scale the system, to how users will be able to provide liquidity in markets that are new, and then when they reach viability, they'll be integrated. That this system enables us to sort of globally scale these fast and affordable user-owned products in a way that we don't think we could accomplish as effectively as we are in this way. But we're going to continue designing and innovating around that and improving over time. So here are the options for TELx, or the liquidity engine. And when I talk about the liquidity engine, I mean how are transactions within the context of the Telcoin application executed, settled, and delivered. Option A, which is something that we basically threw out the window immediately for a variety of reasons, is that Telcoin's the market maker. You can think of like Changely or some of these other, or even centralized exchanges that host order books. That would be option A. That's not really globally scalable. It's certainly not decentralized. Our fees would be higher because we'd have to go out and constantly be a sort of market maker. You wouldn't capture the fees, and it's also not necessarily globally scalable in the sense that each jurisdiction has its own regulatory requirements, and for Telcoin in order to do it that way, we would effectively have to launch what would be a centralized exchange / money service business in every single country where we operate, and so that isn't really something that's globally scalable. And then there's the other option, which is orders route through all available DeFi markets, or in the context of our first two products, decentralized exchange markets. We'll go through that in a minute. And then the option C is TELx, which is decentralize the liquidity engine to active users on DeFi protocols, enable them to power the products and capture the fees that they now exclusively award to financial institutions. And remember, all transaction volume through our decentralized product suite flows exclusively through Telex markets. That's something to keep in mind. So yeah, the first option really does not solve anything except for speed. It doesn't even solve affordability, because when you think about having to scale a global centralized exchange, that's incredibly expensive. And so our fees would increase drastically from that just to pay, the sort of regulatory fees that we would have to in order to make the system work. It's certainly not decentralized, definitely not user-owned, and as I said, it's really hard to globally scale something like that. And it would just take years, and then we really would be giving out trade-offs that aren't within the context of our mission statement. And then there's option B, which you can see on a variety of these sort of Internet Explorer type models, where they're basically everything for everyone and every market. The orders would route through all DeFi markets and or some list of market makers in the context of WooTrade, which I know is someone brought that up in the AMA, which I'll talk about later. But we don't want to be everything for everyone. And there's certainly a place for that business model. What we want to do is we want to build, fast, affordable, user-owned, decentralized financial products for everyone in the world. And so our model is really built on top of the community and their participation on DeFi protocols. So option C is decentralize the liquidity engine to you on DeFi protocols, and we call that TELx, which is effectively the Telcoin marketplace, the global Telcoin decentralized financial marketplace is how you can view TELx. And our products will exclusively flow through TELx markets, at least the decentralized ones. The fiat markets will not, but over time, all of our products will be decentralized that will continue to have the option for people to use traditional services. So this system effectively solves all our problems by using Polygon. It's fast, it's affordable, it's user owned in the sense that it's user owned products, user owned markets. Telcoiners capture exclusively the DeFi and DEX fees that flow through the application. It's decentralized by design, and it's a default requirement that anything that is integrated into our app meets the decentralization requirement, which we'll go through in a little bit. And then it's globally scalable. Telcoin users can now go in and bootstrap new liquid markets and have a clear process for enabling them. And they do that in the context of real, productive, compliant end user applications. And that's really never been done. As I said, most are going for this option B, where they're flowing basically for best execution through all the markets. And so anyone can capture pool trading fees. In our model, only you, Telcoiners, capture pool trading fees. Now let's go through Telex. Huge shout out to Josh for just the incredible amount of front end design and that went into this. Lord knows that if I built a front end for Telex, it would be a bunch of stick figures. Huge shout out to Amir as well for designing the contracts and the systems and the data that goes into this. That's not necessarily a trivial thing at all. None of this is. This took us a very long time to build, and so we're going to go through basically, what is Telex, how does it work, and go through basically all the documentation. And my goal here is to, give you a holistic insight and overview into how the system works in order to equip you with the tools you need first to understand how the system works, and if you'd like, participate on TELx. Remember, all the stuff is voluntary. None of it is designed in a way that says do this, do that. We're simply incentivizing a variety of markets, and then our products exclusively flow through those markets. So yeah, within the context of the platform, this is the marketplace layer or the liquidity engine, and we're really excited about who we're built on. This list is going to continue to evolve over time as we continue to release new products and optimize existing ones. But we're really excited about the projects that we've launched with. Of course, Ethereum. A lot of people ask me about this and that and the other, layer one protocol that Telcoin could build on, and frankly, Ethereum is where all of the innovation is happening. It's not too hard to see that. Virtually every other layer one network is using copycat protocols to try and copy what Ethereum has done and what's built. And so we want to be at the cusp of innovation, and we also want to be at the cusp of security. And so Ethereum is both the network with the strongest network effects in terms of developers, in terms of its community, and it's also the most secure sort of open programmable blockchain in the world by orders and orders of magnitude. So it's really not even close. And so Ethereum is where we are. In Polygon, really excited to build on Polygon. For us, we couldn't look you in the eyes and say, hey, we've got fast and affordable products on Ethereum layer one. Because it's just not possible right now, and frankly, it's not really designed for that. And so we saw Polygon as this network that enables fast and affordable transactions, as well as a network that has been able to really garner the Ethereum community's participation, and that's something that's incredibly important to us. We're part of the Ethereum community. Everything that we're building on has been built by Ethereum developers who love this system and have been able to create incredibly innovative protocols that we believe are the future. And so Polygon is incredible. I'll actually be doing an AMA with Hamza Khan of Polygon, their head of DeFi, on the 20th, I believe. And then QuickSwap, go back and check out the interview I did with Rock from QuickSwap last week. They're our launch partner, our first, I guess I don't want to call them partner, but we're building applications on top of QuickSwap. And so as we'll go through in a little bit, there are 6 markets that are going to start receiving incentives or earning incentives tomorrow. 3 of them will be earning TEL and Quick, and then 3 will also be earning TEL. And then DFX. I'll be meeting and speaking with Kevin from DFX on Thursday. What they solve in a huge way is this idea of incredibly efficient stablecoin swaps between 2 different types of stablecoins. There are other systems that enable you to do like-kind style stablecoin swaps, whereas DFX has created this really, really fantastic automated market maker system to enable very efficient stablecoin swaps. So we envision a user-owned decentralized financial system. Our first products are both exchange-driven in the sense that when you do a cross-border money transfer, there's Forex in between that. Let's say USD to Singapore dollar. And we've decentralized the Forex to you. Digital asset exchange, which is the Telex product, and a lot more. This is the very, very beginning of this, this new next generation decentralized financial system that's owned and powered by you. And so the design space, if you've paid attention to DeFi, it just continues to, for people building products, we don't build DeFi protocols. That's not what Telex is. Telex is an application layer built on top of DeFi protocols, powered by you, and effectively enables you to earn fees from products that you rely on in your daily life, as well as network ownership and the underlying infrastructure, as well as the Telcoin Platform native reserve asset. And so, yeah, we're really focused on this sort of product-specific vertical within the context of DeFi, unlike what you might see with most liquidity mining programs today, where they're really trying to, let's say bootstrap liquidity on a token and make it liquid so people can trade it. That's great, but what we're doing here is we're building financial products for every mobile phone user in the world. And so the Telex markets are where all of those products will flow through, and they'll flow through them within the context of real, compliant, intuitive end user products on the application. Telex is a different layer within the application. The application itself is designed to enable you to intuitively participate and access these products. So how's it work? It works in phases, similar to how I was discussing our roadmap and how things will be moving forward. Effectively, it's the self-custodial liquidity engine of the platform, and it follows a rules-based protocol for phasing in Telex markets into the app, and requires participation from active users in order for those products to work. So the first phase is design and development, and so right now, as I've said, we've designed 2 exchange-powered decentralized user-owned products, which is the Send Money Smarter Network, or SMS, and Telex, which I'll go through in a minute. In the first phase, we design the product and select the markets and incentives. Then you, the active users, provide liquidity reserves to those markets, stake your liquidity provider token, and begin earning issuance incentives on top of fees. And then once those products reach viability, which I'll also go through in a minute, they're integrated into the app and exclusively power transaction volume from end users. So you as a miner are responsible for effectively powering the products, and for that you capture TEL issuance, in some cases dual or hopefully triple incentives with other products that were built on top of, and you earn from, rather than just random traders across DeFi trying to swap for TEL, you're earning fees from actual intuitive end user products that are compliant and designed to be distributed to every mobile phone user in the world. So our first products, the Send Money Smarter Network. Basically, SMS is a user-owned global remittance network that's powered by Telcoin users. Unlike Western Union or virtually every other remittance provider in the world who captures Forex fees or has a way of making the sort of surplus from not having to do Forex at all, our Forex exclusively flows through Telex markets, specifically the SMS network markets. and we'll go through how that user flow works. Um, but effectively, remittances will now flow, instantly at a fraction of the cost. When I say a fraction of the cost, I mean, as we know, Polygon is, a millionth of a penny per transaction, or a hundredth, whatever it is. Um, Traditional forex on fiat products, you're looking at anywhere, just as a company, let's say on the fiat side, you're looking at anywhere from 25 basis points to 75 basis points per transaction. If you, a user, are alone trying to send a remittance and you're trying to do forex on your own, we better have at least $5 million to get any sort of reasonable rate on the interbank market. In the SMS network, within the context of DFX, users actually earn anywhere from 4 basis points, which is how DFX is. That's about DFX's rate for FX, to 25 to 30 basis points. And so, not only are we sort of decentralizing the liquidity engine for remittances, we're decentralizing it to you and empowering you to capture fees from products that you rely on in your daily lives. And so, the way I look at this is like, how does a traditional incumbent compete when the users own the system and they have aligned incentives with the success of it? At what point does consumer preference globally shift from optimizing for lower fees to optimizing for earnings from a network that you rely on in your daily life? And so, that really is one of the core design objectives of the SMS network, is to empower you to own the remittance network that you rely on, and to power it for a global network of users. And we're going to continue to iterate and build on top of it, add in new primitives to make it the best remittance network in the world, and at scale, be the largest remittance network in the world. So for users of the app, just to be clear, this is as close to one-click transfers as possible. It's instant. You never lose custody of your assets. Basically, and you capture fees that flow through the system. And so it should be a fraction of the cost charged by incumbents. You don't have to rely on intermediaries or institutions. And you get to capture fees that typically go to these incumbents and institutions. And so, I'm very excited about this product, and it's going to continue to evolve over time. And then Telex is effectively this sort of exchange product for tokens on the platform. Tel plays a very crucial role as the sort of reserve asset of the platform. All liquidity pools and markets that are a part of Telex, the default requirement is that Tel is also a liquidity reserve. As more fees, as we'll soon talk about, flow through the system, that incentivizes more liquidity. As more liquidity flows through the system, that attracts more users and traders. And so you have this self-improving flywheel. And now the ability to swap between a variety of assets, most specifically assets that are the native tokens of the protocols that power the platform. So we'll just run through this pretty briefly. Effectively, Telex is the liquidity engine of the platform. I actually think maybe it would be good if we started off just looking at what the platform, just going through what the platform is and everything here. So the Telcoin Platform is a user-owned, decentralized financial platform powered by active Telcoin users, GSMA mobile network operators, and mobile money service providers. Across these three layers, when you think about decentralization, across the three layers of the platform stack, you have unique layers with unique market participants with a variety of ways each of those can participate. The sheer number of market participants on Telex alone, you can think about traders of those markets, general liquidity providers, liquidity miners, end users who are liquidity miners, DeFi protocol communities, DeFi protocol developers. That's just one, and then you have the Telcoin app, which is where users can intuitively send, swap, earn, which we will go into later, pay, and essentially access any sort of area of the platform on both the supply side and the demand side. Now, Telex miners outside of the app who are responsible for making the products liquid and enabling them to work, you'll be able to do that from the Telcoin app, and you'll also be able to participate in a variety of other productive ways and earn tel and incentives. It's just going to take time for us to continue to bring those to you all, and we're going to continue to iterate and design around this sort of design objective of building a self-sustaining, user-owned, decentralized platform, and so then you have the settlement layer, which Rivendell right now is in the bootstrapping phase. So it's in the bootstrapping phase in terms of mobile network operators determining whether or not they want to be a validator, and then at scale, once there are sort of viable amount of validators to make it sufficiently decentralized, the Rivendell network will launch. The Telcoin platform will be on top of Rivendell, and today it's powered by Polygon and Ethereum, and so you can think about decentralization in that context. 750 different GSMA member mobile network operators with the proper network infrastructure and fraud infrastructure to be a blockchain validator. Then you have all the validators on Polygon and the variety of solutions that they're bringing to the table. And then you have Ethereum, and so it's built across all of these different settlement networks, and it's designed to be as decentralized as possible while still enabling user ownership, while still enabling fast and affordable transactions, and so on and so forth. And so that's the sort of Telcoin platform itself, and it's designed to work in a complementary way. Telcoin application users are accessing products that are powered by the marketplace layer on TELx, and TELx is secured and powered by the settlement layer that's beneath it. And so when you think about how does this system look years from now, well, it'll be incredibly secure. It'll continue to decentralize as more users come in, a variety of new products and ways people can participate and earn, both on the Telcoin app layer, both on the TELx layer from the app. And just want to remind everyone that earning on the Telcoin platform is far beyond just TELx. It's far beyond your typical proof of stake staking system. We're trying to build a system that self-sustains on its own. And so there are a variety of ways that Telcoiners can contribute and participate, and those will continue to be introduced to you over time, as we continue to develop them and make sure they're market ready and compliant, which, as you know, is a cornerstone of what we do. We're not going to rush into anything, even if people want us to, begin insert X way to earn. This earn tab is going to continue to evolve and encompass things that, frankly, no one has done in this space, and will empower you far beyond what anyone else is doing. And so we're incredibly excited about that, and it's just going to take time, and over time, you'll continue to be able to participate. So yeah, when I talk about how does the system work and what is viability, so there's very clear-cut rules for how new markets and therefore new products are integrated into the mobile application. We went through how phase one works, where Telcoin, where it's product focused, right? Where Telcoin designs a product, determines the proper incentives based off of the best data available, and then deploys incentives. And then once incentives are live, active Telcoin users can go in and provide liquidity to these existing DeFi markets and begin mining tel and earning fees. And so once these markets reach viability, so what's that mean? It means that it's sufficiently decentralized. It means that there's enough liquidity for the average order size to have a sort of negligible slippage level. It means it's fast and affordable. So Polygon solves that, and that's kind of why we're focused really on Polygon markets only right now, instead of continuing to bootstrap layer one, because these markets are actually going to power applications on our products on our mobile application, and so we want to bootstrap liquidity there, and over time, if we decide to launch products on top of layer one, Remember, it would cost something like $100 per swap. Um, you know, for now, we're going to continue to launch liquidity incentives on Polygon that flow through our app. And then once those factors have been met, so it's sufficiently decentralized, meaning there's at least 15 liquidity miners participating at one time for at least 2 weeks. It's viable in terms of liquidity. So the average um, order size, let's say of $2,500, which is much higher than it is for remittances, but probably close to what it might be for DeFi exchange and swap. That's a per market level. And so on these quick swap markets, in order to reach minimum viable liquidity, it has to be around 5 million USD worth of total liquidity in a pool. And at that point, it'll be less than 10 basis points on a 2,500 USD order size for it to be viable. And then the Telcoin developer team will work to integrate into the app, and then once it reaches viability and it's integrated into the app, you're now looking at a user-owned product. You're looking at markets that are capturing fees not only from the general sort of ecosystem that might utilize these networks. You're also capturing fees from a real global end user product. And so how do these products work? So yeah, effectively, users deposit liquidity reserves in a variety of markets, which you can find here on the product pages for each of them. Tomorrow, when liquidity mining launches for the first market on the SMS network, and then the first 5 markets on Telex Exchange, you'll be able to stake your existing liquidity provider token, and we'll start to see where this goes in terms of how long will it take for them to be viable. And then once they're integrated into the app, these markets will exclusively power transactions for end users of the mobile application. And we'll continue to integrate new protocols and new markets, and I'll go through sort of how we determine which protocols to work with and build on, and which assets will be integrated shortly here. I think this is a really key area that if you're trying to figure out how does this thing work and what does it actually look like under the hood for end users, on the above the hood, or on the front end, a user is simply sending money internationally, and just like every other sort of remittance product, the Forex is done under the hood and the transfer is done, except this is instant. You capture fees instead of traditional remittance providers, and it's designed to execute, settle, and deliver from the sender to the recipient in as close to one click as possible. But under the hood, let's go through how it works. So very simply, liquidity miners provide liquidity and stake their liquidity provider token. They begin earning issuance and trading fees. Once this market's integrated as a part of the SMS network into the mobile application, the remittance sender will say, I want to send $250 to my loved one in Canada. And what will happen is their USD will cash into USDC. Their USDC will then swap, paying a fee to the liquidity pool for CAD-C, and CAD-C settles with the recipient. If you're familiar with the way that the Telcoin application works, we do recipient decides. And so you'll be able to actually, if you're the recipient, see that there's a remittance being sent and how much it is, and then determine whether or not you want to receive CAD-C, you want to receive TEL, you want to receive any other asset, for the purpose of, what does it look like if the recipient accepts CAD into their bank account. They effectively receive the CAD-C after it's been swapped for the USDC swaps for CAD-C. The CAD-C will directly go into their wallet, and then they can instantly choose to cash out into their local bank account, at a fraction of the cost instantly, um, and automated via smart contracts rather than some remittance agent in the middle. So then you can sort of extend that. So what happens when a recipient decides to receive TEL? And that'll flow exclusively through, today that's the TEL USDC quick swap market. Over the coming weeks, as you all know, we've been building on Balancer for a while, and they just recently launched on Polygon. We weren't 100% certain if they would be ready in time, and we also wanted to make sure that we prioritized such an important partner in QuickSwap prior to continuing to bring in new markets. But Balancer pools enable a lot of things that your general constant product or 50-50 style pools don't. So I think the next pools will be, more like 80-20 TEL USDC, and then you'll have TEL USDC on QuickSwap. And when a sender, sends through that market and swaps, the recipient receives the best aggregated rate across those markets, across those Telex markets, and no other ones. It's not going to flow through, some random pool. They're all going to flow exclusively through pools powered by active Telcoiners. And then effectively, if the recipient decides to receive WBTC, the USDC cashes into the USDC. The USDC swaps for TEL. So these TEL USDC pools, in a lot of ways, are designed to capture the most volume that flow through the TEL exchange products and the TEL exchange pools. They're designed to be the sort of bridge pools between the global sort of stablecoin markets that you'll see on DFX and others, and the TEL exchange markets. And so, so the USDC swaps for TEL, paying a fee to liquidity providers. Then that TEL will go and swap for WBTC, paying a fee to liquidity providers, and the recipient receives it. As I said, Balancer is another primitive that we're really excited to launch on top of in the coming weeks, and that's going to enable more markets, more liquidity, and it's also going to enable us to optimize the cost of transacting through these markets in terms of getting the best aggregated rate across multiple markets versus just one. And then TEL exchange. So TEL exchange is effectively a digital asset exchange that's powered by active Telcoin users on AMMs. Telcoin users capture the fees instead of centralized exchanges. They custody their assets at all times. We only build on self-custodial markets and DeFi protocols, and it's designed so that the primary sort of assets are the ones that power the native protocols of the platform. And we'll go through that when we go through Telex ecosystem assets and protocols. So if you're just going to buy TEL, you're going to effectively, in one click, cash your USD into USDC, which is going to go swap for TEL and the TEL USDC markets aggregated for the best rate, paying a swap fee to liquidity providers on every transaction. And as a miner, you're simply depositing TEL versus USDC in those pools, staking your liquidity provider token, and earning TEL issuance. Now, as I mentioned before, all the transactions that flow through TEL exchange products from your bank account flow through TEL USDC pools. So this is really the most important pool if you think about it in a lot of ways, because the requirement in order to buy from a TEL ETH pair, the aggregated best rate across TEL ETH, is that the TEL USDC market is viable. The other approach would be you could pay Telcoin USD, and Telcoin could go out and buy ETH for you from some random market, paying some random exchange or liquidity providers. But in this context, you cash in USDC with your USD from your bank account. That USDC swaps for TEL. That TEL swaps for ETH and settles with you instantly across a variety of different markets, paying liquidity providers and miners on every transaction. So now let's go to a Canadian customer buying ETH. So these DFX pools, which we're going to go through pretty extensively over the next on Thursday with Kevin Zhang, someone who I very much so respect his opinion and just incredibly it's an incredibly promising design that they bring to stablecoin swaps. And so when a user and rather than having a ton of TEL versus CAD pools, which we want to optimize for liquidity provider terms across the TEL USDC pools, sort of use USDC as the bridge currency along with TEL, between those markets. And so rather than launch a TEL CAD C market, effectively a user in Canada cashes in their CAD, receives CAD C. That CAD C goes swaps for USDC from the USDC CAD C market, paying liquidity providers. Now remember, that's a 4 basis point transaction fee. And then that USDC goes and swaps for TEL, paying a fee to liquidity providers. Then that USDC or that TEL goes and swaps for ETH and settles in the user's wallet, paying liquidity providers. And so, in the context of user ownership, the design of the system is such that liquidity providers capture fees. It's designed to optimize for liquidity provider and liquidity miner returns. And so, 3 examples here. Liquidity miners are capturing fees from products that flow through the application. And remember, for end users, this is seamless. This is instant. All of this is these fancy and long schematics are just happening under the hood, like it does, in a variety of ways with other wallets. The big exception here is that our products exclusively flow through Telex markets. Another thing that a balancer will enable us to do is sort of craft the fees in each of the pools to be less than the 30 basis point fee that you might see on QuickSwap. The trade-off there is that QuickSwap is more than likely with a 50-50 pool size. Your dollar of liquidity goes farther in terms of slippage and everything versus like an 80-20 pool, which requires more total liquidity. And so QuickSwap's really the perfect bootstrapping system, and we're, as I said, incredibly excited to build on it. And with the launch of these incentives markets, you'll be able to earn both TEL and Quick. All right, so the TEL token on TELx. So the TEL token just generally is the native asset of the Telcoin platform. It's designed to coordinate active users to provide services that benefit the platform. As it's always been designed to be, it's designed to be the most liquid global medium of exchange in the world. And it's really at the sort of epicenter of this entire marketplace. And it's, without it, the system just frankly wouldn't work. And so basically Telcoiners power the whole system. And the first way that they do that is they provide liquidity of TEL versus other assets. So it's the native reserve asset of the platform. Each TEL exchange market, TEL is a required liquidity reserve. And TEL is in a way used to incentivize people to participate, subsidizing future fees with issuance in the early stages and decentralizing the platform to users around the world for providing real, sustainable, services to the network and other users. And so, interestingly enough, TEL's sort of, because the costs to swap through any automated market maker are quantifiable in the sense that intuitively, the more reserves there are in a given pool, the less any one trade costs. So since Tel and since these are exchange products, flowing through decentralized exchange markets, as Tel becomes more liquid, these products improve, and its utility as a medium of exchange continues to increase because the trading costs go down, because you can do larger volume, larger order sizes with less trading costs. So as TELs is successful as a reserve asset, its utility as a medium of exchange, it has a linear relationship with that. And as more markets are integrated, as more assets are integrated, they'll have markets versus TEL. And so every time a new market goes live, TEL's utility as a medium of exchange continues to increase. And I've mentioned this before, our first two products are exchange products. Those products are certainly optimized by new types of other types of primitives. And we'll phase those in over time, but you can imagine a world where TEL is also a form of collateral for debt markets like Aave, for insurance markets, and more. This is designed to be the most liquid medium of exchange and financial asset in the world. And so as we continue to introduce more primitives, phased in over time, it'll quantifiably improve as a financial asset as it improves as a reserve asset. And so TEL is used to bridge between the native stablecoin markets on the SMS network and TEL exchange markets. And so all volume that flows from stablecoins to TEL exchange tokens and vice versa will flow through TEL. And so it's also an SMS currency too. So you can the same way do these SMS transactions or swap and send transactions. You can do that with TEL also, with the recipient receiving it. And it's really this sort of bridge between these two products. And so it's by default, everything sort of flows through TEL, especially when you're moving from regular crypto assets to stablecoin products. And then at its core, TEL is this user-owned native asset of the platform, and enables users to earn more of the native token of the platform for providing services that benefit other users. And I want to stipulate and make it clear. So this is the utility of TEL on the Telex network. TEL's utility is going to continue to improve and diversify and increase, especially across the Telcoin application layer. There are a variety of ways you'll be able to use and earn TEL that extend far beyond the scope of TELx. But today we're talking about TELx, and we have to, over time, phase these new things in, and in a compliant way, in a way that make sure that each part is working well before we introduce new ones. But certainly within the context of the Telcoin application, there are a variety of ways users will be able to earn TEL and participate that expand beyond the scope of TELx alone. So TELx market participants and incentives. I would highly recommend most people really dive into this as well, so that they understand the differences between, let's say, liquidity providers and miners who earn TEL, in addition to just fees that flow through the platform. Though we do go into sort of greater detail within the market participants on TELx, there actually are a variety of other market participants that are not listed here. You can think about DeFi protocol developers like QuickSwap, who we're clearly working with closely to build the best possible products, to build the best total user-owned system, and to sort of bridge our communities in a way that enables, let's say, QuickSwap Dragonites to participate on the Telcoin platform, and Telcoiners to participate on the QuickSwap platform. And so that's kind of how TEL exchange is designed, so that there's TEL and Quick markets. So Quick holders who maybe exclusively are Quick users can now participate on the Telcoin platform, and vice versa. And they complement each other in the sense that Telcoin is this mobile-based financial application that's built on top of protocols like QuickSwap. whereas QuickSwap is, the underlying smart contracts that power the system and make it work. So liquidity miners, how does that work? Well, effectively, you go in if you're a liquidity miner and deposit your liquidity in one of the pools that is listed on SMS Network and Telex product-specific pages. And then you receive a liquidity provider token that denotes your proportionate stake or ownership of the pool. You'll then go into one of these product pages, SMS Network or Telex, or alternatively, you'll be able to use, let's say, QuickSwap's UI for the dual incentives contracts. You'll be able to use QuickSwap's UI. And then you simply stake your liquidity provider token that you have and begin earning issuance in addition to fees from traders. And then once the markets reach viability, fees from global mass market of end users on the Telcoin application. And so over time, you'll accrue issuance. Once you can claim your issuance in this stage, basically at any time once you've earned it. Over time, our plan is to introduce things like vesting and to introduce what I call generalized incentives. The incentive structure that Telex has today is what I would consider minimum viable liquidity incentives. And we'll go through exactly what the incentives are for each pool to start. But yeah, so you can capture your liquidity mining incentives at any time in the first implementation of Telex, and then over time it'll be based off of your total liquidity, how long you've been providing liquidity or mining liquidity, and how many markets you're participating in. And you can capture your fees at any time simply by removing your liquidity from any market. And remember, you custody your assets at all times and have ownership over them verifiably using your liquidity provider token. Liquidity providers are effectively miners, or miners are effectively liquidity miners, or are liquidity providers who stake their LP token. And so liquidity providers don't stake their LP token. They're simply independent market participants who, let's say own TEL and ETH and want to deposit those assets into a liquidity pool and capture fees. They don't earn any mining incentives. Telex is built on DeFi protocols that are by design permissionless and decentralized, so anyone can participate as a liquidity provider. And so it's, miners are liquidity providers who stake their LP token. Liquidity providers do not stake their LP token and earn issuance. And then there's users, of course, who simply access these products from the Telcoin application after they're integrated. Their orders will route through these markets at best execution instantly without relying on any intermediaries. And the application is designed to be as intuitive as possible to go from one click from your bank account to settlement either in your wallet or with the recipient. So another important thing to note is that once these markets are integrated into the app, end users will also be able to provide liquidity and mine TEL and other assets. They simply, because it's basically a chicken and the egg problem in the sense that you can't have a decentralized user-owned product without sufficiently liquid markets and without viable, verifiable decentralization over time. So Telex and this web portal in and of itself is designed to solve that chicken and the egg problem and to enable real user-owned end user products with the users who own the products being active Telcoiners. And then there's traders who simply go in and they trade different markets independent of the Telcoin application and are trying to buy assets and sell assets, or let's say capture arbitrage spreads in between from one market to another. And so they're an important component. And as these markets become more liquid, the types of traders that are going to be interacting with them, they'll be wide variety. If you think about, like, let's say a big whale who wants to trade through a market, well, if there's $100,000 worth of liquidity and their average trade size is 2 million, well, that they're not going to be attracted to it. But if there's a 50 million USD worth of liquidity market, that's going to attract more traders and more traders. And so there's this reflexive flywheel that I'll go through in a second. That's incredibly important, and a huge part of how these systems improve and self-sustain over time. So the first type of incentives that market participants earn, this is the primary incentive, are swap fees on liquidity pools. So this can range anywhere from 4 basis points or 0.04% to 0.30%, depending on the DeFi protocol. And as we introduce new primitives like debt markets and insurance markets, these types of incentives, the primary incentives that users can earn, will continue to increase and change over time. But we want to get these first two products right, and so the initial markets and subsequent incentives are swap fees. And you can claim those anytime you want. Telcoin isn't responsible for hosting these smart contracts. We're not responsible for matching the orders. This is all automated via smart contracts on systems that have already powered hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transaction volume, or have audited smart contracts that are open source. And so as a market continues to earn fees, you have a really interesting dynamic happen that leads to an improved product and an increased usage that is on its own can kind of self-sustain and self-improve based off of the economic activity that flows through the markets. And so as new users come into a market, that increases the trading fees, and with more trading fees on the same amount of liquidity, there's more pool. The profitability to provide liquidity increases, and so that on its own attracts more liquidity providers. And with more liquidity providers means there's more liquidity reserves, which means there are lower trading costs on larger volume, or the product on its own has improved based off of how many new users. And so as you have the ability to trade larger order sizes on increased liquidity, that attracts more traders and leads to more increased usage. And so over time, the systems are designed to self-sustain and self-improve with increased usage. All right, so Telex Issuance V1. So what's the purpose of issuance? Purpose of issuance is that it bootstraps liquid self-custodial exchange markets for SMS network and Telexchange for products that end users of the mobile application use. So it's designed to bootstrap liquidity when fees are low, and make these markets liquid enough for end users of the mobile application to access. And then it's also designed to decentralize TEL to long-term oriented users who provides durable, quantifiable value over long periods of time to the system. So you earn TEL for providing real, quantifiable value to the platform in a sustainable way. And then over time, each of these markets is designed to self-sustain without issuance. And so as let's say market one receives X amount of issuance, liquidity reserves come into play and increase. That attracts traders, which increases the profitability of the pool, attracting liquidity providers, increasing the amount of liquidity, improving the product, which then attracts more traders and users. And so as long as there's sort of new users and increased amount of traders flowing in, the products themselves are designed to sort of self-sustain without issuance. And so as the user base in the Telcoin application grows and as more users are flowing more volume through these pools, the incentive to participate increases. But in the early stages, issuance is designed to bootstrap liquidity, um, so that these markets are liquid enough in order to enable application end users to access them, and um, as more fees flow through the platform. Just like with Bitcoin, if you think about how mining fees or Ethereum, the issuance that flows through the block reward, to each miner, as there are more users that enter the network, fees actually have taken over the block reward, or the amount that miners earn per block, um, as the primary economic incentive for them to secure the network. And so over time, that same dynamic, that's the design objective, is that same dynamic happens with Telex markets. And as that happens, that means more incentives can flow to newer markets and continue to bootstrap a global marketplace of user-owned financial products. So yes, scroll through this stuff, really try and learn how it works. I understand that it's not necessarily intuitive. In the early stages of the internet, it also wasn't very intuitive to use. You didn't even have Google until 2002 to search for things. Internet Explorer, didn't like actually work well for years. And so, if you're an end user of the application, things will be very intuitive. But for now, there's still, this phase where we have to solve the chicken and the egg problem. And so, over time, that'll continue to get easier and better. But there's that sort of opportunity to participate early, and that's open to anyone in the world, regardless of how much money they have or how much hardware they have. It's designed to be open, and over time, issuance will continue to improve based off of the data that we have. So I'm incredibly excited to see how these markets do, and how well they're able to bootstrap for end users of the application. And then at scale, incredibly excited to see how the sort of if the flywheels end up happening and working well. And these are design objectives. In some ways, everything in this space is an experiment, but we're, as a liquidity provider, are sort of a part of Telex. Why were they chosen to be in those markets for end users? And there's three sort of criterion that an asset must satisfy in order to be integrated into Telex. So it has to be the native token of any protocol that supplements the Telcoin platform. So you can think about, Quick, or ETH, which Telcoin is built on Ethereum networks, or Matic, which is the token you use to pay for gas on the Polygon POS chain. These assets are verifiably useful to people on the Telcoin platform, and so that makes them viable to be launched on Telex. And that'll continue to increase as we introduce new primitives that are useful to the Telcoin platform, utility tokens that are useful to end users. And then asset-backed stablecoins with reserves and local bank accounts and domestic payment rails. That is a huge requirement, in the sense that having domestic payment rails, local reserves in those accounts, that if you don't, you're effectively, let's say on the SMS network, you're effectively doing the Forex twice, right? There's no point to having a asset-backed coin where the reserves are located in, country A, when people are cashing in and out from country B. And so effectively asset-backed stable coins, not algorithmic or any of the other crazy things people are putting out, one for one, backed by reserves, verifiably, is the basic requirement for a stablecoin to be integrated into Telex and the Telcoin application. And then compliant digital assets with strong consumer demand and institutional acceptance. That right now, that's WBTC, or Bitcoin, which is a tokenized representation of Bitcoin on Ethereum. So, there are futures markets for Bitcoin on the CME, and just plenty of we can verifiably say that BTC has been accepted globally on an institutional level, and even with the introduction of El Salvador bringing Bitcoin on as as a currency, it's beyond institutional. It actually has sovereign acceptance as a compliant digital asset. And then, as I said, we plan to introduce debt markets to supplement existing products as well as to enable new ones, such as savings, such as, let's say, lending, TEL, and earning yield. Aave is one that is, in particular, the sort of native debt market to Polygon, as well as just an incredibly successful user-owned system. And so, after Telcoin, which you all are welcome to do, gets passed through governance on Aave after being submitted for a proposal to be a form of collateral on Aave, then we'll be able to integrate those new products and protocols into the system and optimize existing products and create altogether new ones. And so we wanted to make sure to make it clear that that's something that we want to do in the future. We don't want to drive speculation around things. Frankly, I think there's enough here that you don't really need to speculate on what we're building. We've opened up 25 pages of transparent documentation about the system and how it works. And so, this is we're kind of past the point of speculating on like what is Telcoin doing. Like this is what we're doing, and we're building a user-owned decentralized platform. Everything else will be integrated in phases over time. And as I said, now Aave TEL markets that are bootstrapped, will enable Aave users to buy TEL, and it'll enable TEL users to buy Aave and then participate on that protocol. So DFX is the native token of DFX, which is a native protocol to SMS network. We'll be launching USDC, CAD-C, USDC, Sing Dollar, and USDC Euro markets on DFX on Polygon. They agreed to launch their smart contracts on Polygon because they want to build with Telcoin, and they really moved their release schedule for that up probably a month or two in order to work with us. And so I'm incredibly excited to introduce you guys to Kevin Zhang from DFX so that they can really explain how the system works well. But you can also go over and participate there or in review on the FAQ section of this site. The DFX markets aren't live because basically once Telcoiners start earning DFX for providing liquidity to the markets that power the SMS network, then they'll be able to make liquid markets with DFX and TEL. But today it's a relatively early network, and so over time those markets will begin to form. And if Telcoiners create a DFX TEL market, then that'll certainly be eligible to earn incentives. We're just not going to bootstrap that today because the market itself is still in the sort of early days of liquidity mining DFX and enabling users to earn it and then provide liquidity. So yeah, if Telcoiners create a DFX TEL market, then we'll begin incentivizing it and integrating contracts on top of it and the TEL exchange portal, enabling DFX users and Telcoin users to participate across protocol. And then BAL, it's no secret that we've been incredibly excited about the functionality and programmability that Balancer enables. And so similar to DFX, if Telcoiners create a BAL TEL market on Balancer, then that'll be eligible for TEL issuance incentives. And the basic requirement there for that market to also earn BAL is that the users provide a governance proposal to the Balancer forum, and then it'll be whitelisted for BAL rewards, and then that market would earn both TEL and BAL issuance. And then how do we select protocols? This one's pretty simple. It's got to be battle tested. It has to be sufficiently decentralized. The code needs to be open source with audits from reputable firms, and it must be, very importantly, self-custodial. We're not interested in building on systems where you give up control of your assets at any point in time. That's just simply not a part of what we're trying to build. That's centralized. I'm sure there are plenty of things at the intersection of CeFi and DeFi that enable that, but it's just not something that's really globally scalable from a compliance perspective because you're always relying on an intermediary. and that means that person has to be regulated institution with licenses around the world, and you know, the requirement of a system like that would be that it basically wouldn't be 24/7, 365. Whereas these self-custodial smart contract-based systems are by design. So yeah, our first two protocols are QuickSwap and DFX, and we're going to continue to iterate and build on other protocols. So yeah, I mean, I think there are a ton of very helpful explainers within this site. If you're new to DeFi, new to AMMs, new to Polygon, I would encourage you to go in and learn about these things. We've given you some tools, and over time we intend to enable you to participate and also create let's say material for people to use that would help them understand how the system works. And so we have a lot of plans about how we're going to bring this to the mass market, and that requires education. And so this is just early days, phase one, and those will be released in the near future. So what are the first markets? So starting tomorrow, two markets will begin earning TEL and Quick incentives. This TEL and Quick will be immediately vestable. You'll be able to claim it instantly without a vesting period. And so the first three markets will be earning double incentives are TEL USDC, which after walking through the importance of the TEL USDC market in terms of bridging different products and being the on-ramp into all of our products, that market is going to be earning 1.25 million TEL and Quick a week. So it'll be earning 1.52 million TEL and whatever Quick, which they'll release tomorrow, decides to incentivize that market with. And then TEL ETH, 850K TEL plus what the Quick team has determined for incentives on that pair. And then TEL Quick will be earning 850K plus Quick as well. And then TEL Matic, TEL BTC, and TEL Aave will earn single incentives. And we're excited to see how these markets grow and how long it takes them to get viable, so that you as end users can access them via affordable, fast products that are intuitive on our application. All right, so now I want to open it up to you so that we can begin doing an AMA. I really liked the Twitter AMA that we did before. Let's see. Trying to figure out what's going on here. Huh. Well, Johnny, let's touch base on Slack really quick. I'm having issues with my camera for some reason. One second. Sorry, guys. What a bummer. Come on. Honestly, I think it might be good if we shift this to Twitter Spaces. I know you guys want to see my beautiful face, but I cannot figure out how to make it work. All right. Well, I guess we can kind of just go through these questions. I'll just shift it back to this view. All right, so I'm just going to go through the questions here. So the first question is, can you go into detail regarding the process of the move to the Polygon network? For most TEL holders, using the bridge themselves is a big enough barrier to entry to LP. So I guess there's a plan to do this automatically behind the scenes. So two questions there. The first one is like, what was the process for moving to Polygon? Which I went through that quite a bit, but I think it would be helpful just generally for people to go in and learn about that here. Polygon, essentially the answer is that Polygon fulfilled all of our design objectives for building, on a layer 2 or other system. And the first one, of course, is that it's fast, instant, transaction settlement. It's affordable. It costs, Polygon transactions cost a fraction of a penny. It's quantifiably decentralized with billions of dollars worth of validator stake securing the network. And it's very much so aligned with Ethereum, and Ethereum is at our core. It's at our DNA of where we want to be building today. We think it's the best network in terms of the global settlement layer for this new alternative financial system. We believe will be built on Ethereum, just because there's so many developers in this space. They're at the core of and really cutting edge, and so yeah, we think that Polygon is Ethereum aligned and has built a great ecosystem that's just kind of perfect for Telcoin. Additionally, we're going to be launching Rivendell, more than likely using the Polygon framework SDK for launching new blockchains, and Rivendell itself introduces that validator set, which is the mobile network operators, and so Polygon really just out of the box is a great system, and we're stoked to be building on it. And then if you're the other question was, is there a plan to do this behind the scenes? So for end users, it'll be very simple. It'll be, I'm sending from me to you, or if you have TEL elsewhere, you'll be able to send it directly to your wallet, whether that's on the Ethereum network or that's on the Polygon network. We've designed the system so that users can instantly send money to their wallet, regardless of if it's on the Ethereum network or Polygon network. And there won't be any sort of need to bridge, but if you want to sort of participate on TELx, earn TEL issuance, and bootstrap these markets as well as fees, you'll need to learn how to use it. And so there's in all things, a sort of asymmetric advantage to people who are willing to put in the work, put on their boots, get in the mud, and make stuff happen. So yeah, behind the scenes, it'll be very intuitive. You'll be able to send your TEL from the Ethereum network to your wallet, your Telcoin wallet, and yeah. So one major point in the original white paper, this is the next question, was that Telcoin Max Supply was actually smaller than BTC. So there was only 2 subdivisions. BTC can be divided into SAT, which is, I don't really understand that question. BTC has 21 million units. Telcoin has 100 billion units. We have not raised the max supply and don't have any intention to today, by any means whatsoever. So yeah. And will there be these tax, systems like, what are some good examples? Like TaxBit, and there's a variety of different like tax providers that right now you can just plug in your Ethereum wallet to, and it'll tell you how much um, taxable gain and all of that. We're not tax advisors, we're not tax attorneys. Um, but we certainly want to build a very intuitive application for end users to be able to access their data and information, and we're going to make that as easy as possible for you to do. When will it be possible to buy and sell Telcoin directly in the Telcoin app once the TEL-USDC pair is viable and integrated into the mobile application? The next question, is there a permanent loss on the SMS side? So on the TEL-USDC pair, I guess let's start off like what is impermanent loss? Well, basically the difference between your assets if you held them on their own outside of a liquidity pool versus if you did hold them inside of a liquidity pool, and so the key differentiating factors there would be, like let's say TEL were to go up in value, or ETH were to go up in value versus USDC, and you're a liquidity provider in the USDC pair. So as people are buying ETH, they are effectively swapping USDC and receiving ETH, meaning the reserve ratio or the balance of ETH in the pool goes down while the price goes up. So effectively, that's where impermanent loss comes in. Is you have this increase in this asset, but you have less of it, and you have more of the asset that hasn't increased as much in value. And so how does that get offset in the context of AMMs? Volume, so fees that flow through. So if that is higher than the impermanent loss, and impermanent loss, like the calculations, I would highly recommend going to here, where you can actually simulate your impermanent loss. And then we also shared a video by Finematics, who I want to give a big shout out to Finematics. You've done an incredible job building out intuitive walkthroughs and tutorials for people to really learn and understand this stuff. So yeah, I would highly recommend going in here and watching this video by Finematics if you're new to this stuff, simulating your impermanent loss using this link. I think that, but one key area that I think really differentiates the TELx markets from other markets is that our end user applications, their volume, from users, global mass market of users, exclusively flows through these markets. And so I think, that design in of itself is just a lot different than, it's just novel in this space. And so, we'll see what the impermanent loss looks like. So you have, fees, but then you also have TEL issuance to compensate for early and permanent loss. And, over time, we'll see how that evolves and if it offsets it. So yeah, I think, and then we'll be doing a walkthrough with Kevin, as I said, from DFX on Thursday, tutorial about DFX. And if you're providing liquidity to, let's say, a CAD USDC pool, well, that's going to have a lot different sort of impermanent loss characteristics than if you were to provide liquidity to two volatile assets against each other. And so we'll let him explain how we should view impermanent loss in the context of stablecoin only markets. But you can kind of think about that as providing liquidity to the Forex engine that powers global remittance network, and gaining upside on your currencies in a way that you couldn't do at a bank account. You can't. This is a new type of productive yield that doesn't require a middleman, and so yeah, there could certainly be impermanent loss on the SMS side. And I also think it's another thing that's really important is like you have to differentiate like if you're just holding TEL or you're just holding ETH versus making the market of TEL versus ETH against this curve, which is effectively what you're doing on an AMM. You're guaranteeing liquidity at every price level. You're guaranteeing that they'll be able to execute an order across this entire curve, and you're earning fees on every trade that flows through. So yeah, I mean the Telus USDC pair, as I've noted extensively in this, is designed to really be that bridge pool. It's designed to be the global on ramp for users, and so we'll see if that compensates for any sort of IL. But I definitely think that if you're new to this stuff, you need to learn that basically you can't really compare a TEL USDC pool to holding TEL. They are not the same position. You know, if that's not the type of thing that you want to do, by all means, this is a voluntary system, but it's decentralized and user owned, and so it's a basic requirement for the system to work. Is that we run, is that the users make the markets and make the whole system work. So yeah, I think it's you have to use your best judgment. We don't have any investment advice for you. We're just showing you that, hey, we're building real products on TEL. We're enabling you to participate and earn fees from those products in a decentralized way. And so, I think with anything in life and anything in investing, like, do your own due diligence. We are not here to tell you to buy TEL ever. We, have no recommendations on that. We have no recommendations in terms of should you provide liquidity or mine liquidity. This is up to you, and it's completely open and voluntary. Will there be intuitive tutorials for new users in the crypto space following the release of the Telcoin app? So yeah, I mean, I think there will be. There certainly will be. I think if you're, the person who asked this question used the term noob. I think if you're a noob to the crypto space, you're probably just going to be accessing a better exchange product, or you're going to be accessing a better remittance product. You're probably not going to decide to be a liquidity miner on day one. But we certainly have plans to make this stuff more intuitive, easier to participate, in making these markets liquid and participating on Telex generally. And you just got to give us time. We're going to decentralize everything to a lot of things to everyone, and we're going to enable you to participate in a variety of ways, and education is certainly one of them. So yeah, if you're a new user, you're probably just using, like any sort of exchange or remittance product, a very intuitive application. But over time, perhaps those people will start to want to provide liquidity and mine TEL, and so we'll certainly try our best to make that intuitive and bootstrap that via the community in a variety of novel ways that we haven't released yet. So let's say a user receives a remittance of $200, and there is an option in the wallet for them to earn and deposit. The user is non-technical. What happens behind the scenes in the TEL ecosystem if they choose to deposit their remittance? Yeah, I don't really. So, for example, would their remittance be automatically converted into TEL and another asset? Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we certainly want to make like the process of mining liquidity on the Telcoin application intuitive. We also want to introduce a variety of ways that Telcoiners can, participate and earn TEL and earn a variety of different new types of incentives. So, first thing here is that earn is not just TELx. Earn is far beyond that. It's far beyond what anyone has speculated in, Twitter comment section about what it is, because it's new and it's novel. No one's done it before, and so it's far beyond TELx. But we certainly want to make that process intuitive. We want to help educate people and make it so that they understand it. But at the same time, like, retain the existing desirable properties of existing services. So just the ability to access those products. Remember, TELx is not the product. TELx is the liquidity engine. The product is intuitive, available on the Telcoin application. When will the 3 new sending markets from the Q2 catch-up be live? Yeah, I mean, we have plans to introduce Singapore, Australia, and the USA this year, if that answers your question. And they'll be available as soon as possible, and in some cases, as soon as the first markets reach viability. if one of the financial products we provide is some sort of lending TEL crypto asset to other, how will that loan be backed? And well, it's okay. In a traditional loan, there's something called a salary. I know. A house, a car to back a default on that loan. How will it work if one of our financial products involves lending value to the other? So yeah, I mean, you have to separate between a secured loan and an unsecured loan. A secured loan is one where you provide collateral and then you borrow against it. I would highly recommend reviewing Aave and other money market protocols. Um, in the case of, let's say, taking out a mortgage for your house by the Telcoin application, and doing that, let's say, in a way that's you're not securing some form of collateral, what's that require? Well, it requires off-chain coordination. It requires credit, um, and that's a long tail. That's a long tail sort of network that's style of DeFi protocol is being built out. The reality is that you know in almost all cases for that you require some form of identity and credit off chain, um, because you're not securing anything. It would be like, I'm going to loan you this asset. And you're like, well, what happens if you just run away with it? And that's the problem that is pretty hard to solve just on a blockchain alone. But our process here is that we take really, battle tested protocols and we build products on top of them. And frankly, there are no, um, unsecured lending applications on the blockchain that are live and working today that we can say with any sort of level of certainty are viable for Telex. But we're trying to build something that outlasts all of us. And so I am very confident that gets solved over time. And they say like um, that effectively you sort of overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 10 years. And I'm incredibly excited to see where that space goes over the next 10 years. I can tell you that, we're going to start with things like decentralized debt markets before we get into, off-chain credit-based unsecured loans. What is the true value of the TEL token in an operation on our networks, and how will that token enable those operations? Um, if you're talking about value in terms of price, that's up to the market. In terms of utility, I would recommend first going to TEL on Telex and reviewing how it works there, and then really diving through these Telcoin Platform docs. We have a full-on taxonomy of how you can think about TEL and how it's, a part of the platform and how market participants can use TEL. Another thing of note here is that you're going to be able to, like right here, right? Everyone is kind of saying, well, are we only going to be able to do TELx? Like, honestly, just like we've made it pretty clear that there's a variety of ways you'll be able to earn TEL and participate on the network beyond being like super technical and, having a bunch of money. The system, we've always been about financial inclusion. And so that involves both the demand side, i.e. accessing fast, affordable user-owned products. User ownership is probably the most financially inclusive thing one could imagine. But it also involves the supply side of the system. How can you provide services that benefit other users and the platform at large in exchange for issuance? And we're going to introduce those over time, but it's just not like today. And we've made it clear that that is a part of it here. And if you go into TEL issuance, you can kind of learn about the variety of ways that we have sort of introduced issuance. Some of them, we haven't fully unveiled yet, and that's just a part of our roadmap, and we will unveil it when it's market ready, phased in over time. But until then, I would just highly recommend really going through these docs because they're an incredibly important part of how the system works. And so that should be your sort of guide. And then I think Josh mentioned this on the last AMA, but we'll also be posting the holistic Telcoin Platform docs at some point in August when the first markets reach viability in parallel to the release of the application. Basically, there's a variety of pieces of documentation in here that should be really helpful in learning about what TEL, why it's useful and how market participants can use it and might find it valuable. And on Telex, there's a variety of them, and on Rivendell too, and as well as the Telcoin app. So. My question would be, how can I best participate in the TELx exchange in a way that contributes to the project while still being able to take advantage of the inevitable rise in price of Telcoin? Yeah, there's two things. I can't really go into that. I mean, the first one is how can I best participate? So I can't tell you how to use your money, and I don't feel comfortable ever doing that. I never will. We are simply giving you the tools to learn about these things and participate on your own, you know, um, on your own speed whenever you want, and also the ability to not do anything at all. And then the other part is talking about, the price of TEL, which is not something that I'm like that we'll ever talk about here at Telcoin. If anyone ever talks about that at Telcoin, they probably don't work at Telcoin. It's just not how we roll. TEL's a commodity sort of money system. It's a reserve asset. It's a medium of exchange. There's a variety of ways people can use it, but at the end of the day, it's a utility token. That's one of the most important things that we need to recognize. It's a utility token, and so the price of TEL and its utility are not necessarily 100% linked all the time in some way, and it's designed to be useful. How long will liquidity mining rewards remain in place? And when we get our first rewards, I guess he's saying, are you not able to receive them until you remove your liquidity? So how long will the rewards remain in place? Yeah, I mean, this is a form of Telex issuance is a form of issuance. The numbers there, I believe, are 15% of total issuance in perpetuity, for as long as it's live. A big part of our role in this platform is to govern issuance and to design it in a way that meets the design objectives of the platform, and so that'll certainly evolve over time. And there are other ways that people will be able to earn issuance too. Yeah, and so just like more specifically, how long will they remain in place? So as long as it takes for them to reach viability and then get into the phase of that we talked about here, which is eventually self-sustainability, and then that issuance can be used to bootstrap other markets within the context of Telex issuance, and so yeah, that's kind of the general evolution. And then there's immediate vesting on these staking contracts that'll be live on these two pages starting tomorrow. And so yeah, that there's no long hold up period. This is the early days, and but over time that'll evolve and improve. What is Telcoin's target capture percentage of the market, and what would this potentially equate to in volume? I mean, I think we want to power financial products for every mobile phone user in the world. So the math there is, we're building a system that we think has serious competitive advantages versus our competitors, and products that I believe are far better than traditional ones, and they'll just compete in the open market. So I think that the target capture percentage of the market would be like 100%, right? If you're not going to shoot for 100%, then what are you doing? Now, is it feasible to have 100% of any market? Probably not. But we work very hard to do a good job, and we'll see how we compete in the marketplace, and how you compete in the marketplace as a part of the Telcoin platform. What are the benefits and risks for adding liquidity? I would head over to here, dive into the docs, um, and really start learning. You know, I think videos are pretty helpful for people, um, and then simulators, of course. But I'll kind of just run through them. You know, this stuff is risky. It's early, um, and you know, and just like it's risky to be a market maker on any system, you know, you have inventory on both sides of the order book and traditional systems, and so you're, you know, in some ways taking execution risk, price risk. You know, you're taking um, custody risk, so counterparty risk. Um, and in the context of liquidity providing on AMMs, you're taking with the assets you're holding, you're taking you know, the sort of volatility profile, holding that as inventory, and then you know, the risk of those assets versus each other and how that performs versus them on their own. You know, so you have contract risk. You know, we've done our best to only build on systems that are verifiably audited and, you know, have great, you know, just are generally have powered a lot of value and are useful. So I, you know, we've done our best job to try and make sure that that is, you know, as mitigated as possible. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're holding ETH, there's a ton of risks. If you're holding Telcoin ETH, also a ton of risks. You know, this is not by any means a risk-free rate or environment. And so, you know, that's why one of the reasons why issuance is aggressive in the way that it is that, you know, it's sort of subsidizing early risk takers and future fees with issuance and ownership in the network and the platform itself via the native token as well as fees that flow through it. So yeah, you know, we're not at any point in time telling you to buy, swap, pool, stake, or use any other assets. We're just simply telling you how we've designed our products and how the system works and how you can participate. And anything from there is really, you know, you got to do your own research and learn about this stuff. So someone reached out and said, what if there's not enough liquidity, or what if there's not viability before August? When is the app available in the US? So I already answered that. The app will be available in the US this year when the first markets reach viability. And we're also adding in Singapore and Australia, and we're working on those this year too. And we're going to keep adding and adding new sending markets, and then eventually more receiving markets. And yeah, I mean, like, what if there's not enough liquidity for the markets to reach viability and be integrated into the app? Well, then that market won't be integrated into the app. I mean, that's the product design. You know, is that once they reach viability, that, you know, they'll be integrated. Like in the case of the USDC pair, you know, there's like 30,000 or something USD worth of TEL a week in rewards going to liquidity miners on that. So, you know, it's a decentralized system, guys. You know, it's kind of like asking, like, well, what if there's no miners that show up on Bitcoin or Ethereum based off of the supply schedule? And it's like, well, then that won't be as secure, or that, you know, system, you know, there's a requirement that people participate, and that's, you know, at its core what makes it decentralized and user owned. And yeah, so we'll have to see. But I mean, am I confident? I'm, you know, I feel like there's, you know, adequate incentives to bootstrap enough liquidity, and we'll continue to optimize for that over time, and based off of the data, you know, go from there. Will there be a one-click staking option where my TEL stake gets distributed over the pools and services? Yeah, I certainly would love to do that. Like I you know, is there like a Telcoiner, you know, cashes in from their bank account and then provides liquidity across all the viable markets and stakes the liquidity provider token in one click? Like, that's absolutely the design objective. I think you got to bear with us as we build and phase in new integrations to get better at this stuff over time. But yeah, I think, and then and that was asked within the context of the final version of V3. Well, I can say that there will definitely be a lot of versions of V3, and, you know, we're certainly working towards that. And this is a long-term system. How do you plan to market something that's complex to consumers who need simplicity of ease of use to adopt V3 at scale? Yeah, I mean, they'll be able to swap and access a 100x better remittance product instantly from their bank account anywhere in the world, 24/7, 365. We certainly have marketing plans, and those are novel in the sense that they're not like your traditional marketing plans, and might just involve more than just the Telcoin, the developer. It might also involve the community, and that just hasn't been released yet. And we got to do one thing at a time here. So let's see. But yeah, I mean, we want to make this intuitive, and we want to make it easy from the perspective of the user of the app. We want to make it, easy for people to participate on TELx before, liquidity mining happens. And remember, we launched all this stuff last week. Let's see. With Project Rivendell, are there any current mobile networks building on it or planning to? I'm not going to go into anything that's not publicly released. And I think that just take note that like we only will release things at launch. Full stop. That's the compliant way to do things. That's we're not here to hype up stuff. We're not here to do anything like that. We're here to build products for every mobile phone user in the world. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of questions about like breaking down a specific earn function on the V3 app. All right. First thing, we only release each of these features when they're launched and useful for end users at that time. Anything before that, we kind of view that as hyping stuff up. We just don't really do things like that. It's not our the way that we operate. But I can tell you this: it will continue to develop and iterate, and it'll expand far beyond just like staking your TEL for a proof of stake network. In that style of staking is certainly not been introduced, and I found it kind of interesting that a lot of people like expected us to release a proof of stake network for V3 where they could earn TEL from a proof of stake network. That'll be released at launch if it happens, and along with the other earn features. But once again, what I can tell you is that this is a multi-layered, full-stack platform architecture with unique participants at each layer and a variety of ways that active users and just general end users can participate, provide value, access products, and on the supply side, earn TEL for providing services that benefit the platform and other users. So, yeah, I mean, just give us time. Like we're going to keep building. I showed you what we went through, what we've built this year. I mean, I'm having trouble finding many other crypto projects that have done virtually any of these things combined. So just give us time, guys. This is a long-term project. Certainly not a let's all like this is going to evolve and improve. We're going to continue to introduce new ways you can use your TEL and provide services and earn TEL, and those will be very retail friendly, and they'll be far beyond just TELx or what some insert XYZ layer 1 blockchain is enabling you to do by earning issuance and delegating your stake or what have you. If the liquidity pools do not reach the amount necessary, will V3 update be postponed? The V3 update will happen when those liquidity pools reach the amount necessary. So it's not a like. This isn't like. Well, the first thing I would say is that like the idea that roadmaps are that's not a normal thing to have a strict roadmap for each thing. Like, couldn't you imagine if you went back in 1998 with Peter Thiel and asked him what the PayPal roadmap and if they could share that with the world was? Like, that would be just crazy, that idea. Like, we want to be transparent, open, but this idea of like strict roadmap deadline targets is not like, this is now a decentralized financial platform with a variety of different ways that the system gets from phase 1 to phase 3 to phase 10, and so you know there won't be anything postponed, but V3 will be launched when the first markets are viable and users can, in a decentralized, use your own way, swap assets. How will you secure the LP when people pull out their funds in anticipation of a price increase? What happens when people temporarily pull out too much liquidity for a pool to? So the first one is, so how will you secure the LP when people pull out their funds in anticipation of a price increase? Well, the reason that these markets have a particular viability level is that, you know, that's the level that's required for it to be viable. Once it's integrated, you have a global mass market of users who can then also provide liquidity and earn. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that if let's say a market gets integrated at 5 million and it goes down to 4 million, like that's not gonna, it's still going to be a viable market. That where trades go through and function, but you got to remember, like when you stake your liquidity provider token over time, you're effectively saying, I am guaranteeing liquidity across this price level over time and earning. And so, there's a variety of sort of like the functionality to remove your liquidity and remove your stake liquidity. Well, that just opens up more rewards for other people to participate and earn. And so, I don't think that will be an issue at all. But issuance will continue to sort of evolve and improve over time to enable, and like as the first markets get integrated, like we're going to launch a lot more. There are going to be a lot more markets than just these 6 markets. This is phase 1 or 0.1. So, and we're trying to build the most liquid, decentralized financial marketplace in the world. That's the mission of TELx. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. But once a market, is integrated into the app, then it's live, and it'll stay there. Will any of your partners provide liquidity? Like who? Like telecoms? Their role is to do 2 things. One is to secure the Rivendell network, and then the other is to build applications on top of Rivendell and integrate and market the platform to their users. Are they able to provide liquidity? Anyone can. These are built on DeFi protocols. There's no, restrictions on who can do that. And I think that would be an awesome world to see. Is that like a treasury of a mobile network operator is like, well, we're getting really bad yield, or we want to earn yield on a global remittance network with some stable coins. Like that is most certainly the goal over time, but it's not one that like is happening today, or there's certainly been no one that said they're going to do that, and it's not the primary focus of those partners. Does the community also need to provide the stable coins in a pool? So on the DFX pools that we're launching on, the community certainly can, like the existing Telcoin user community, and they'll earn Tel, and they'll also earn DFX and perhaps other tokens too for providing liquidity in addition to capturing fees. And we'll go through DFX pretty holistically. They have their own community too, and of people that are pretty dedicated and interested in providing liquidity. I think that, but yeah, there's certainly an opportunity here for you as the community to earn yield on stable coins without taking price volatility risk, which is kind of unprecedented in a lot of ways, and to capture fees from a global remittance network. But yeah, I mean, like with DFX, the minimum viable liquidity is actually much lower than like with a quick swap pool, and I would recommend going to what is DFX and learning about their curve, and then tuning in this Thursday to my interview followed by joint community AMA with Kevin Zhang. Could the team explain where the inspiration behind Telcoin came about, what was and when was that eureka moment? I think over the years there have been a lot of eureka moments for the Telcoin team. Um, at the advent of Telcoin, I think it was pretty clear, like, wow, mobile network operators are perfectly positioned to offer their customers financial services. Um, this idea of having to take custody of their assets, result in them having to create offshoot entities and offer their services that are not direct to consumer. And so that was a big, like obvious um, deal for Paul and the team at that time because the of their background both in crypto as well as in telecommunications as some of the foremost sort of service providers at a critical area of the telecom stack. They're very uniquely aware of the needs of telecoms and how to sort of bootstrap them around decentralized systems, and that's kind of where Telcoin comes in. And then I think over time, especially as our teams evolved, and I think especially the DeFi sort of ecosystem has evolved into this like financial leviathan that's powering trillions of dollars of annual commerce 24/7, 365. Like the sort of the eureka moment like happens every day in this space because it's just so incredible to watch the growth of real, useful, productive applications. Um, so yeah, I think there have been a lot of those over the year. Definitely, a lot of them as we work to build out Telcoin V3.0 and the next generation of the platform, and our ability to build on these existing systems that just simply work. Um, so yeah, we're constantly learning, and we're going to continue to innovate and build products and bring them to market. How long can you expect to receive double incentives with TEL via QuickSwap? Well, so you certainly receive incentives with TEL on each of these markets until they are in that self-sustainability phase where, like, let's say fees are incredibly high and everything, and but in terms of double incentives with QuickSwap, they're an awesome team. They see the vision here. They see how this is kind of the move to the next generation of crypto generally, like the ability for global mass market of users to access these products at an affordable cost intuitively from their phones. They're really excited about that, and they think we're going to change the world, and I think we're going to do that together. And so yeah, they've decided to do double incentives with us. In terms of how those double incentives evolve over time, well, they also use a data-driven methodology to determine how much incentives are suitable for a pool. It wouldn't make much sense to have 100 quick a pool on a pool that has 100,000 total worth of liquidity a week. Like that's 50% APY a week. So they have to their system will evolve based off of the economic activity, the total liquidity, the volume that it's driving weekly. Similar in some ways ours will evolve like that, and so it'll just kind of depend on the performance of the marketplace itself. But yeah, there certainly is no anticipated time frame for when incentives stop. It's a very long-term project, and these are that's one of the ways that issuance flows is to Telex markets. So. Just want to clarify something. If I understood well, we will only have liquidity pools and not staking via nodes like Banana. Yeah, so I don't know where that came from. Like, there will be so many, and I've said this like 20 times because I want to keep reiterating. There will be a ton of opportunities for people to earn, and they will be far, far beyond just staking, delegating your coins to someone who's it's just like you're actually going to be able to participate and provide value, not just based off of I stake my TEL with this person who told me they'd give me an APY or something. Like, we're building something where you can participate in a real meaningful way, and so yeah, that's certainly not the case. The idea that we won't have staking of TEL for consensus or for a variety of other ways, like we just simply have to deliver one thing at a time, and not try and launch everything all at once. This, as I said before, the system needs to be phased in. There will be plenty of ways for people to earn TEL in a retail friendly way that doesn't like that is far more intuitive than just staking with a delegator. You'll be able to earn TEL for providing real quantifiable value. The key there is that you'll be earning it, not just like receiving a sort of what I've seen a lot of people seem to say is that like XYZ platform lets you earn APY fixed and you don't have to do anything, you just stake it. Well, I promise you, if you're doing this on these applications, you are providing a service. You might not be actively doing it, might be delegated to someone else, like BlockFi. You're lending your asset. I saw someone drop that. So we talked about Aave already, right? Like you can just do that in our system in a decentralized way without relying on some money transmitter, our broker in the middle to do it. You'll be able to put your money to work. I love what Paul said. He said, this system enables people to put their own money to work. And that's what we're doing. And there's going to be a ton of ways you can do that. So just, if you're in this for the long term, you're in the right place. Take your time, be patient, let's build. But yeah, liquidity pools are certainly not the only way you can earn TEL. It's one of them though, and that's we've decentralized this thing to the users, and in a way, as I explained earlier, that no one else has ever done. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to innovate, and I'm super excited about it. And but it's a long-term project. It's not, everything is not going to be launched at the exact time that everybody wants, and that's fine. We're trying to build something that changes the world, and sometimes that means it takes longer than people want. Fiat on-ramps USA market. What I can tell you is that, yeah, bank, card, things like Apple Pay, eventually Google Pay, definitely interested in those. I'm not like an advocate at all for people buying, crypto assets with credit cards. I think it's a dangerous game to play. I think a lot of companies are just like willing to jump that line because they say it's their money. And I think, you just have to be careful with that. And so we're going to balance, the freedom of people to cash into the system with, what we believe to be the safest way that doesn't put people in a tough spot. And, so I can tell you that I don't think credit cards will be a part of cashing in to the system just because there's risk there, credit risk, and but certainly bank transfer, debit card, all of that. I love all the UK people. Shout out. A lot of questions about, how do we get the UK market to be viable, via the SMS network. First off, that's awesome. Second off, yeah, one of the things that we're building are on and off ramps globally. That may or may not involve launching stablecoins across a variety of global markets. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it'll be phased in. And we certainly, want to build great products in the UK, and there will definitely be ways that the UK users will be able to participate on the application. Just give us a little bit of time, and we'll get there. What's the vesting period to telecom providers? I can tell you long time, a very long time, or they'll be able to do a couple things with it. But like a lot of other things, when we launch things, they're at launch, live, working, and or a clear process to get there. And so we'll be releasing that soon, but we don't want to do that prematurely. So just bear with us. Okay. Johnny said that I need to make sure to read the questions out loud before I do that, before I answer them, and that sounds like a good idea. Can you comment at all on the wide variety of new features within the application? Is there a hard date for the release of the application? Yeah, as I said, the hard date is when the first markets reach viability. Um, but we're not doing like hard dates here anymore. That's just not conducive to building anything. Like it's not a good environment for developers to feel, like they have the ability to be creative and come up with the best solution. It's not really a great dynamic to have people telling us that, because we didn't release X at Y time, that that is that's just not like a healthy place to work. Um, we're a startup, like we're small, we're trying to build, and the idea that we should have, that type of pressure is kind of crazy to me. And so, but in terms of the new features, um, earn features, send money smarter, DeFi swaps, and then any of the others, that'll be launched in V3 will be introduced at launch. The minimum viable. Okay, so what is the minimum amount of liquidity that is needed to make V3 viable? 5 million USD total liquidity per quick swap market. So basically, like less than 10 basis points of slippage on a $2,500 order per pool. What happens if we reach that? We kind of already went through if it sort of fluctuates. Once it's integrated, that market is live in the application, full stop. And it won't be taken out at any point. I mean, these markets can function. Like if you use the Uniswap market on Ethereum, that has been generally around like 1 million, at least it was around 1.2, 1.5 million USD worth of liquidity for like a year and a half, and it processed hundreds of millions of dollars of transaction volume. I mean, maybe billions. There were days when that market alone, with $1 million of liquidity, powered $22 million worth of volume. So the viability levels have enough cushion for it to be perfectly viable, especially for what we view as the likely size of an order, which is probably around 250, similar to dollars of value per trade. At $250 of order size, it's incredibly fast and affordable. We just want to be far and beyond that, so that we don't come across these problems of like if it fluctuates below 5 million. Well, um, it could work on 1 million of liquidity, but 5 million is the target because there's a lot of cushion there for it to power global marketplace for users. And remember, like as more volume flows through these, the demand for even just independent liquidity providers to participate far beyond like your regular community members on Telcoin. This is kind of like there's a lot of people who look for liquidity provider returns constantly, and so that my expectation is that volume will drive liquidity, and liquidity will attract more traders and drive more volume, and that feedback loop will continue over time to improve the products to meet the demands of a global marketplace of users. Let's check in with Johnny and make sure that I'm not mumbling or something. What adoption curve from MNOs are you anticipating in year 1 and 5? I really don't want to speculate about how many, when will there be this many X, Y, Z. But I can tell you that my experience in crypto generally, just to reiterate the question, because I might have not read it loud enough, but what's the adoption curve from MNOs that you're anticipating in year 1 and 5? So I can't really speculate on that in particular, but I think based on my experience in this space and just kind of viewing how technological cycles happen, generally, I think it's kind of like a game of musical chairs. It's, once you have the first 3 participants, then all of a sudden, they kind of seem to jump in. So that is me speculating. I'm not exactly sure what that'll look like, but ideally, We have hundreds of Rivendell validators and a flourishing ecosystem, of financial products and tons of users, and that's the goal. But I don't want to speculate too much on specifically what the curve looks like from here to there. What's the pinnacle of success for Rivendell look like to Telcoin? Yeah, I mean, I think it's the whole global GSMA, validating the system. I think it's the global GSMA, doing direct-to-consumer financial products to their customers. It's mobile monies integrating and building applications on Rivendell. It's for me, I think one of the interesting things that would be very exciting would be when you see them truly adopt Rivendell as an alternative financial system or as their financial system. So that would mean telecoms using Rivendell not only to distribute financial products to their customers, but on their own to do corp-to-corp payments in just a much better way globally, and using the SMS network, stable coins, etc., to do global corp-to-corp payments. And what's interesting is like this idea of pay yourself. So if a Rivendell validator uses the Rivendell network as to send money, they effectively pay themselves, right? So if they send money on a network that they earn the transaction fees on, and they're validating and they're capturing those fees, that's user ownership. And so I think user ownership in all ways is the goal here, and it'll be incredibly exciting to see how it evolves. I think we have, it's like, as I said before, you underestimate what you can do or overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 10. And like, we're definitely looking at everything we build from a very long-term lens. We're not short-termist people. We like to zoom out. But I do also think we're at this sort of perfect, time to be doing this. You're seeing global adoption of central banks with Bitcoin. That's a game of musical chairs, and I think we're going to continue to see global adoption of crypto systems, and this one is just specifically designed for mobile network operators. So that's the goal. I feel very uncomfortable sending my TEL tokens to MetaMask from my Telcoin wallet app just to earn some rewards. Why can't I just do it through the Telcoin app? Is there a plan to mitigate this? Yeah, there's absolutely a plan here. And it's at the launch of V3 and the mobile application, you'll be able to participate. And if there's definitely that feeling of like uncomfortability in participating outside of the app, and I think people need to, that's kind of where asymmetric opportunities lies, and is in, getting in the mud and taking risks and doing things like that. And like, if you're uncomfortable sending your TEL or like participating, by all means, please don't participate in something that you're not comfortable doing and excited about, or view as a good way to use your TEL and earn TEL. The TELx is not for everyone, for sure, but the Telcoin application is, and so you'll have a variety of ways to participate and earn TEL beyond just liquidity mining at scale. Will there be a possibility for individuals to delegate their TEL to Rivendell's nodes controlled by telecom operators? Just another one of those things where we can't jump in and discuss things without them being live. There's a million reasons for that. One of them is just from the perspective of compliance. We want to only introduce things as they go live. So just keep that in mind. But we certainly have a deep understanding of the space and consensus, and how blockchains secure themselves and how users can participate and delegate their stake. And we're excited to see how the platform evolves to enable all sorts of ways you can use your TEL. can we input at a later date, or are there a variety of incentives like the double rewards for getting in now? Yeah, there's no pressure. So the question was, can we participate on TELx, um, at a later date, um, or should we only do it? And it's like absolutely, like you participate on your own schedule. Um, no one is telling you to do anything with your money. We're just simply telling you how we're building our products and how they'll get launched and everything. Do we need 5 million USD worth of liquidity in each and every pool before we can actually put any of them in the app? No. You simply need one with 15 liquidity miners for 2 weeks straight. That's it. And then the first one will be integrated, when the developers are ready to integrate it. And so if, it reaches viability in July, then it'll be launched, integrated in early August. All right, I'll jump into the YouTube channel. Let's see what other questions you guys have. All right. Wow, there's a lot of people here. It's almost impossible to like review the questions because it's moving so fast. Will Telcoin team comment on operating issues QuickSwap user having retracking their LP performance? So the question is from Tom. Will the Telcoin team comment on operating issues QuickSwap users are having regarding tracking their LP performance, etc.? Yeah, totally. So QuickSwap uses the Graph protocol. It's basically like a sort of data protocol for obtaining indexing blockchain data, and then making it useful. And basically, the graph has been designed for with Ethereum layer one in mind, and they recently made a big acquisition, and uh, partnered with Polygon to make it so that the graph is useful on Polygon and enables users to track their data. Like right now, it's like a 10-hour delay just because there's so many transactions on Polygon. But that's going to improve over time, just like everything within this space. And so, yeah, it'll definitely take time. But I'm very confident that they'll deliver a great data solution for this, and I know that they're working on it hard now. Let's see. I've staked Tel and Quick on QuickSwap. What do I need to do to collect double incentives? So you'll need to tomorrow, when the staking contracts go live, um, remove your liquidity from where you have it staked now, and then stake it on this portal, which will be super intuitive. Um, so you can do that if you have Tel USDC, that'll be on the SMS network page. And if you have any of these markets, you'll be able to come in here and intuitively stake your liquidity provider tokens in here. So let's see. It's a bummer to hear that. I guess I'm alienating people. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to be helpful. And we're all building this for you guys. So we're just trying to do our best, and I'm trying to do my best to explain things. And I'll get better at it over time. But yeah, just to be clear, like anything that involves you being able to use your TEL and earn more TEL or earn incentives in other ways beyond TELx will be launched. Will be the documentation for it and the way you can that'll be released at launch of that. We just don't want to add speculation into the equation at all about what we're doing. We don't want to hold ourselves to things that aren't integrated yet in case they don't work. Like, it just takes time to get this stuff to market. And, I hope that, you know, um, you guys can just be patient with us because the last thing we want to do is alienate anyone. We love the community and yeah. Um, yeah, I can kind of. So why is Telcoin only on KuCoin? What I will say here is that um, there's now 25 pages of documentation for anyone who wants to list Tel on their exchange to go and access it. I think anyone who's been around the community for a while or the space generally knows that um, you know centralized exchanges list on their own time and they generally require um, a lot of documentation, and we have just released a ton of it for them to sort of review and understand how the system works at scale, and what the utility is, and all those really important things that go into what the sort of reputable, compliant exchanges are doing. Which is really digging into documentation and making sure that they're listing something that is useful. And I think it would these docs, as well as the next layer of docs, as well as the next release of the application, will be, my guess is, very helpful when people are trying to list Tel and determine whether or not that's a good idea. So yeah, let's see here. Best AMA ever, Parker. 10 points made. Thank you, Pete. That means a lot. I try hard. I'm not like, I'm just doing my best. We all are, guys. And there's a lot of people who have, um, there are a lot of people who put a lot of time into making this as great as it can be. So it's not just me. All right, more questions. Michael Jameson says you're appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, so if you're currently LPs of TelQuick and TELETH, and you've staked that in the QuickSwap contract, then you'll need to remove that stake and then tomorrow go to the Telex site and then stake your liquidity provider token in the staking UI, which will be released pretty soon. Options for nodes. Can a person or group purchase one? Um, so remember the exclusive validator set on Rivendell are mobile network operators. That's the plan. That's where things are today. That's how the protocol works. And if there are any changes to it, we'll let you know. But that's how it's designed today. And yeah, but we're constantly working to make sure you all can participate in a variety of ways, and we'll see how it all evolves. But I wouldn't want to make a promise about something like that. Yeah, you're doing your best, Parker, and we appreciate. We're just very excited and don't want to miss out. So not all understanding all this so far is getting us heated. Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. Thank you so much. And this is a long-term project. Take your time and learning about how it all works. You're not going to find like many corollaries in the legacy financial world. And so it's just something that we're all learning on a daily basis. And so just take your time. Don't rush in. There's no reason to do anything like that. Yeah, think Supreme, correct. Like, we want to build. Basically, what he mentioned was that of course we're not opposed to Tel being listed on exchanges. We also don't control that, right? That's not what Telcoin does. Our goal is not just to go get listed on centralized exchanges. But I can tell you that our goal is to bridge our platform with compliant global marketplaces and fiat on ramps and enable users to seamlessly transmit their value between compliant marketplace to compliant marketplace or to wherever they like. And so we are in no way opposed to centralized exchanges. They form a very important aspect of this space. Um, it's just not our role to determine whether or not they list someone, and we certainly will never pay one to be listed. Tel is, as I've mentioned, a decentralized utility token, and they can list it at their own discretion. And I hope that this documentation and everything we're doing, in the community is helpful to anyone that's working to build bridges between, um, Telcoin and their exchange, and we'll certainly help facilitate that between our platform and theirs, so that we can bring as many users into our system as we can, and likewise, I'm sure that there's a ton of reasons why people want to use those, but I do think that this whole self-custodial, user-owned exchange ecosystem is way bigger and better than centralized exchanges. But that does not mean we're not totally interested in building bridges with them. So, Derage asked, will there be an AMA at least monthly once? I can tell you, so I'm doing another AMA on Thursday with DFX, and then on the 20th with Polygon, and then anything that we launch is going to involve an AMA and documentation and the ability for you to learn about it and participate and speak with the founders of the projects that we're building on. We want to bridge the Telcoin community with the other native protocol communities that power the Telcoin platform. And so we're definitely going to do our best to build comprehensive ways that you guys can tune in and learn and do all those great things. So I wouldn't want to promise every month, but yeah, I certainly think there's a lot of there are a lot of people on the Telcoin team just beyond me that are going to do things like this too. It's just right this month with TELx, it made the most sense to have me jump in and lead the charge here. But I can't wait for Will and Jeff and Josh and everyone to do it, and hopefully we can. We're also on the DFX one. I really liked the Twitter Spaces deal that we had, where we had like the whole team come in and hang out, and you guys got to ask them questions. That's definitely something that we want to do when we do these joint community AMAs. And I know that they're going to bring in more than just Kevin Zhang to the AMA. They'll also bring in other people. Yeah, the next AMA is Thursday. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the questions that I found that I thought were um, appropriate to go in and answer today. I hope that if there's anything else that you guys have questions about, please feel free to reach out to me at Telcoin Parker on Telegram, and I'll do my best to respond. By all means, this is not the last AMA that we'll be running. It's the second of many, many more to come. We're going to continue to do our best and try and do a great job explaining the system and enabling you all to participate and earn Tel, and provide value and access great products. And at scale, we want to achieve our mission, which is to enable is to provide every mobile phone user in the world with fast, affordable, user-owned financial products. And so we're going to keep working to innovate in the space and bring it to everyone with a mobile phone. And it's really exciting to be here with you all, and just thankful to be here at this exact time in history. So anyways, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be at Telcoin, and we all are. And just let me know if you have any more questions, okay? And I'll check in with Johnny, confirm. Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Cheers.